Servus my motorbike friends, welcome to another episode of Stefan's Garage. Another Wilbers install on this brand new Onyx White Pearl. I hope that I got the color right. 24 Road Glide, and lots of small improvements had been made on the new 24 models. A little bit suspension, a little bit brakes, a little bit of everything. So is it justified to upgrade to a Wilbers suspension, or is the difference only marginal? We will find out during the install. So as always, I start with the front. For that we remove the front fender, calipers, front wheel, and then we can remove the fork legs. For that we have to disassemble the cover of the upper triple tree, and then we should be ready to go. Same from the other side. And now be careful. And then careful along the tire, remove the front fender. Next, the brake calipers. It's a 10mm 12-point socket, and I forgot to mention the fender is a 1/4 inch Imperial. Copy paste with the other side, almost, and here we see one of the many small improvements. Those clips are normally only for the CVOs, and now all the models have them. It looks much nicer than with the zip ties. And in addition, although the brake calipers look exactly like on previous models, the diameter of the brake rotors has been increased, and therefore the lower fork tubes are brand new as well. And I'll get some cover for the caliper. And a brand new bike gets brand new covers for the calipers. Just stole them in one of the hotels. Just kidding. And now for the front axle pinch bolt, delivered by Showa, so it's metric 6mm Allen. And as the bike is brand new, we are just loosening it, but the bolt stays inside. And then the front axle, 19mm Allen. Just get a better leverage. And that's the big difference from the 23 to the 24 model here, as the fork sliders have been changed. They changed the front axle as well. So now careful. Support the front wheel, remove the axle, and then get the ABS sensor, and on the other side the spacer. And then we put the front wheel aside. It's very hard to reach the pinch bolt for the upper triple tree, therefore we'll remove the cover. It's going to be 3/8 for those bolts on the side, and then a Phillips screwdriver for this one, and we have to remove the cover of the fork lock and then 2 other Phillips screws below. Careful with the sharp edge screwdriver, it's just a cover, but still we don't want to damage anything on this brand new bike. There we go. And now for the 2 regular bolts. Just turn the handlebar around to have a little bit more room. The top one, as far as I know, you just loosen it and don't remove it completely. As you can remove the whole plastic fastener. Let's now open. And now the last 2. And now carefully separate the 2 halves. There's a clip down here and one up there. We already separated the first half, and you have to turn the handlebar to have enough room here to get it out. And you see only 2 clips holding the whole assembly, one on the top and one here down, and you just need to separate them with a little bit of force. Now we have access to the triple trees and the pinch bolts with the right length socket. You might not need to remove the covers, but now it's just better accessible. And before loosening the lower ones, of course, you secure the fork leg. First one is down. So what's new on the 24 forks? Basically just the fork sliders. Yeah, they need to have different mounting points for the larger brake rotors, and they changed the front axle. So that's basically the difference. Let's see what's different inside. So now we open up the fork legs. Be very careful with that, as there is spring pressure on the top nut. Therefore I have leather glove, and now make sure, just have a little bit of back pressure, that the fork leg is just starting to suspend, whatever that is. And then careful, open up the top and secure the top nut while you're opening it. And then release the pressure and we will see what's inside. There is preload sleeve, as always. There's a washer and the spring, but first we need to drain the oil. And then I will clean the parts and we will compare them with the new Wilbers parts. So, and while the guys are just talking here in the garage, one needs to work. So we are draining the fork legs to get all the Harley oil out of the fork legs. Here we have the Harley stock fork springs and the Wilbers zero friction ones. And we have a Bremse, which has been killed now. Yeah, first we see the new Harley fork springs are linear springs and not progressive springs like the Wilbers one. Meaning you have equal brake diving over the whole suspension travel. No, just kidding. But the Wilbers springs are very soft at the beginning, or here at the beginning, and then have a progressive spring rate in order to reduce brake diving significantly. And then we have another thing where I have to remove my mic in order to make this audible for you. The surface of the Harley springs is not treated, it's pretty rough, whereas the Wilbers springs are specially surface treated, absolutely smooth, reducing the friction inside the fork and leading to a much better suspension. Let's see if we can visualize it. So those are the Harley springs. Those are the Wilbers springs. I don't know if you can hear it, but you can feel it definitely. Now we fill in the provided Wilbers fork oil. With the new 24 models, it's as well viscosity 10 oil, and the oil level is identical to the previous model, so 110 millimeters, but check that at your install instructions. And now we have to bleed the fork. Therefore we create a vacuum, unten halten, about 20 times, and then we should be fine. Then we top off the fork leg. That should be enough. Klaus, du hast es. We set the fork oil tool to 110 millimeters. And then we calibrate the oil level, ein Finger drauf bitte, to exactly 110. That's it. Wilbers spring oriented with the thicker end facing to the top. The washer, because I've done some fork service on other bikes and the washer was missing, so somebody is collecting them. And then I know that the preload tube is missing, but as the fine thread is pretty hard to engage, even without load, I try to find exactly the starting point. Here it is, and we will mark it. And now I get the preload sleeve and the wrench. So now the missing preload tube. Okay, dann habe ich alles. And let's see if this is going to work at the first try or at the 10th try. Without editing, first try. Okay, it is just a coincidence that the markings are lined up again. And you know, as always, overkill here at Stefan's garage regarding the torque values. The top nut, Harley recommends 30 to 80 Newton meters, which is a lot of range, and we take 45. Basically, a good and tight would do it as well, as those nuts won't get loose as they are secured by the triple tree. Now we reinstall the fork legs. Left one is the one with the thread for the axle. Install it loosely, and then we will torque down the pinch bolts. We will torque down the 3 pinch bolts, 22 Newton meters, but check your owner's manual, or not the owner's manual, your service manual. Top one is a single one, so 1 beep will be enough. The lowers are 2, so we need to do 3 turns for both of them. And now the top one is loose again. See? And now we're done. And then almost copy paste for the right hand fork leg. I just did it by side, that we have the same height above the triple tree like on the left hand side. And then we will go down to the front axle to check that it's absolutely leveled out. So just follow me. What's more important than both are exactly by the same 1/10 of a millimeter out of the triple tree is that the front axle is without any binding, so that those 2 parts are exactly at the same level, and it is achieved definitely. So we can torque down the right hand fork leg and then reinstall the front wheel. The installs normally take longer than just the 45 minutes that you have been bored. We have some catering here in the background.
Bavarian wiener.
The famous Wiener Wurst. Now back to the topic. Reinstalling the front wheel. Don't forget the spacer.
Take the spacer.
And then what I like, as little force as necessary. Support it. Get the ABS sensor. And now get a big sledgehammer to reinstall the axle. So everything's smooth, as those bikes have a soul and they like to be treated accordingly. So the front axle will be torqued down with 98 Newton meters. This one will be done later. Then we continue with the brake calipers. For the brake calipers, 45 Newton meters and no Loctite. .47 is good as well. The range is up to 52. We reinstall the clips for the ABS sensors, or for the sensor cable. Front axle security pinch bolt, 25 according to the manual. Used to be 27 on the old ones. I doubt that most have a torque wrench that is precise enough. And finally the front fender, then we are done. For the front fender we use some blue Loctite. And then torque it down as well with 25 Newton meters. Just in case you don't know which side of the fender is going to be the front and the rear. There's always this smoother edge for the front and the sharper one facing towards the engine. On the 24s, we don't need to adjust the headlight as the length of the rear shocks is identical to the Wilbers shocks, so there won't be any changes, so we don't need to adjust the headlight. And now carefully reinstall the two halves of the cover. Those hoses at the tank are binding a little bit. Now we're good. Now we engage the clips and then we engage the screws. Make sure that those side bolts are seated correctly, because there's a little bit of a mounting, not a bracket, but a mounting pin, and those need to be on top of that mounting pin, and then you don't have huge gaps here on the rest, and then you can torque it, no, not torque it, screw it down. Now we remove the rear shocks, 3/4 inch or 19 mil. I use the extension to be above the rear muffler, otherwise put in a rake or something to protect it. No scratches on any bike. And as we had some issues with brand new bikes already being converted to Wilbers, not all of them, but some, we have the suspicion that the rear swing arm bearings might lead to that. And for that, without the shocks, I will just check if there's any resistance, and there is. I had an older bike 2 days ago and there was less resistance noticeable. This bike has only 100 miles, so it might be the braking period. So we'll leave it as it is and check it on a later stage, but you might want to check that first before you install the Wilbers, and you definitely feel some resistance, which will work against the Wilbers Nivomat. Okay, and one other issue is the rear swing arm alignment, which we are going to check, because that is leading to wobble symptoms. Death wobble or sudden, or almost near death wobble, I don't care, you know what I mean. Okay, that's the measurement on that side. But here we are spot on, so no need for an adjustable engine link on this bike. And here we have both rear shocks, these stock ones of the 24 models, non-CVO, and the Wilbers Nivomat. And let's just compare the left-hand ones. Here we still have the adjuster. Left-hand saddlebag needs to be removed in order to adjust it for load or passenger. And the Nivomat unit is doing everything just by itself, totally mechanical. The right-hand shocks, the difference is not that big anymore. So this one is a little bit beefier than it used to be on the previous models. However, still room for improvement. And many people argue, what's the reason, or does it make sense to go for a Nivomat? I'm just riding solo, maybe a little bit of luggage. But even for solo riders, the Nivomat offers much more comfort, because it's a combination of a steel spring and a gas spring. And so you can design the steel spring to be very, very smooth, because as soon as the load gets higher, the gas spring kicks in with the progressive spring rate. So with that combination, even as a solo rider, you have a much more comfortable ride than you would have with two conventional steel springs. And we have some blue Loctite on the mounting bolts. Mounting direction, the Wilbers sticker faces to the rear. On the right hand side it's just for cosmetic reasons and for this drain slot here in front to be able to drain the water when you wash the bike or ride it in the rain. And now the Nivomat shock. Here the mounting direction is vital, so the Wilbers sticker needs to face to the rear. And I lowered the bike a little bit too much. Don't use force when threading in those bolts. Better loosen the right hand side again, as the Nivomat shock can be easier compressed for the same length. Torque values for the rear shock mounting bolts are 90 Newton meters, 90, and as you've seen, blue Loctite. And now just the rear sag adjustment, which we will highlight in a minute. For the rider sag adjustment, which is vital for the Nivomats, although you have provided all different weights, you have asked your wife, and I hope that you didn't lie on the weights, but nevertheless you need to check that the preload on the right hand shock is set correctly to have 20 millimeters of rider sag. For that we will lift the rear wheel until it's completely off the air, and then the proper way would be from the rear axle to a fixed point up here, and then 20 millimeters of sag. You see, it's not very practical to do it like this, so as the mounting direction is almost vertical, we agreed with Wilbers that we can just take the measurement between the two rear mounting bolts, and for that I have the special tool. I will mark a straight number of centimeters, which is 18 here, so right at the 18 mark, and then with the rider, or the owner of the bike, not just any rider, it needs to sag at least by 20 millimeters, but not more than 25. If you don't have the special tool like this, you can just use a tape measurement, but then you have to record 34 centimeters, whatever it is. The absolute value is not important, it's just the amount that it sags. Now we lower the bike. The owner of the bike will sit on it. No whipping. Geh nochmal hoch. Because if you start to shake around, you will already engage the Nivomat. Okay, then just sit down. Put one leg on the footboard. The other one you better don't put on the floorboard. Now we check the rider sag, which is a little less than 20 millimeters, so we need to loosen the preload. And we have to take into account that the second saddlebag is missing and Ollie is not wearing his riding gear. So, but this is not rocket science. Okay, dann einmal aufstehen, aber oben bleiben auf dem Bike. As Ollie is riding mostly one up, I will set the sag to the most comfortable value, which is 25. So that's between 20 and 25 mil. You should have the sag. And I will aim for, let's say, 23 now. And then with the riding gear and the second saddlebag, we should be perfect. So, wieder draufsetzen. Fuß hoch. And we are at 23. Perfect. So we just fasten the second ring and we are done.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and Ollie had so much fun with his new Wilbers Nivomat that he didn't give me a chance to test ride it, so he had it on home, but I'm just lucky enough to have my own Wilbers Nivomat. So thanks for watching and see you next time.